our guest speaker for today, who is a friend of mine, and a colleague actually. Her name is Ndlovu, and she is just super awesome. I really hope that you guys can get the most from her. She's so dynamic. She thinks of things from other angles that I could have never thought of them. And when I'm kind of going a little bit crazy or on a tangent, she just reminds me, hey, this is where we're going. And, you know, she's part of I consider her to be part of my village. And, you know, she eggs me on when I'm doing things that are really, really cool. And I really hope that, you know, you're going to get the most from her, because she is a student at the University of Witwatersrand, and she is an old girl. Like I said, she matriculated in 2017. And while she was there, she left her mark of I was here. She was a member of the Johannesburg Junior Council. And then she was on the school's representative council, and she was deputy president of the RCL. If you're in the RCL, drop a couple flowers in the chat box. And if you want to be RCL, drop a pink heart in the chat box. And then she was also a Matric Ambassador, right? And then while she was, and now that she's at Wits University, she has worked at the South Point Student Residence as a brand ambassador, and then as a resident assistant. And right now she is currently occupying the position of resident assistant mentor. She joined G4G South Africa through the UJ cohort, and she graduated from it as a mentee. And after that, she ran for the Alumni Executive Group successfully, and she is the team leader of the G4G South Africa Alumni Group. That's a mouthful, but it's a huge job, and she has huge shoes, and whoever's going to come after her has huge shoes to fill, because on top of that, Alice is also the coordinator for the G4G Multi-University Cohort. So Alice basically said, I want other universities to have the opportunity to do G4G, and she worked with Mum Rita and other people to start the university cohort. She's also passionate about social causes aimed at youth and women empowerment, and her experience as a leader in various capacities in her student life have made her a firm believer that leaders are made and molded and not born. Did you repeat that louder for the people in the back? Leaders are made and molded and not born. And she dedicates herself to being an example to young women who want to unleash their leadership potential, okay? I like to say unleash the beast. So I hope that at the end of this session, you will be unleashing the beast and unashamedly being fierce. Alice, we're so happy to have you here with us. And please take it away. I'm so excited.
Thank you, Aka, for that introduction. Wow. Oh my goodness. I'm blushing. Thank you so much for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm such an honor to be here, and I cannot begin to express how excited I am. I've been telling Aka the whole week that I am so excited to be speaking at the Athlone Court. So I'm so excited. As Aka has already introduced me, I am Alice Ndlovu. So I'm going to just talk about my journey with leadership and public service and how it has led me to become a part of G4G. So I'm from Yeoville. I was born and bred in Yeoville, and I attended primary school at Observatory Girls. And if any of you girls are from Yeoville, you know that the general trend or the progression is, if you're from Observatory Girls, you progress to either Waverley Girls or Athlone Girls. So in my entire high school life, I'd always felt as though I don't have leadership qualities. I never looked at myself as a leader. I never thought of myself as being a leader. I felt that because I was an introvert, because I was quiet and not necessarily as talkative and as popular, that I would not be a leader, and I didn't have what it takes to be a leader. And I had the mentality that you should leave leadership to those who can do it. And I just stood on the sidewalk and just watched people as they led. And little did I know that I could do it too. So in grade 11, there was an advert at school about the Johannesburg Junior Council, and they were asking for anyone who would be interested to apply And because I felt that the council was more of a program for social change and addressing youth social issues, and that was something that I was passionate about and had a deep interest in, and which I still do. And because I viewed the council in that view, I did not necessarily view it as a typical leadership position, which was wrong. I ended up applying for it. And I became one of 2 Athlonians to represent the school at the council. And the experience of having served in the council was one that grew me. It was an experience of growth and really changed my perspective of leadership. It made me look at leadership differently, which is about wanting to bring change and wanting to make a difference. And if you have that vision and the passion to want to bring change and make a vision and make a difference, that is enough grounds to be a leader. So I moved from seeing myself as not being a leader to having the perspective that so long as I want to bring change, that is enough to propel me to being a leader. And because of that experience of having been in the Johannesburg Junior Council, the following year, I decided that I would run for RCL elections. Mind you, I'd never been a class monitor, I'd never been a prefect, I'd never been even a tuck shop monitor. I don't know if you ladies, you girls still have it at school, but at the time when I was still in high school, we had a tuck shop monitor where that would be someone who'd take orders from the class and take it to the tuck shop. I'd never even been that. I'd never held any leadership position at school, but I was determined to become part of the RCL. And because I felt that I could make a difference, and so I did. And I was voted in as the deputy president for someone who had not even been a mere member of the RCL. As I've said, I'm from Yeoville. I grew up there. My entire life has been there. And some of you girls may know the kind of community that Yeoville is. It's one that is filled with crime, with poverty, with drugs, and there's a lot of negative connotations attached to it. Most of the time when Yeoville makes the headlines, it's hardly for any good news. And there are no programs for the youth, especially for girls like myself. So after matriculating, that's where the aspect of public service came up for me. I wanted to make a difference in my community, but specifically for girls like me, but I did not know where to start. So I went back to Athlone and I spoke to Mrs. Van Stalbeck, who's the principal, and I spoke to her about my vision. I said, this is something I want to do, but I don't know where to start. I want a program for girls like myself, but I don't know where to start. And that's how I became introduced to G4G. You know, sometimes we may have a vision, but we may not have the resources for what we want to do, but we can team up with people. We can take opportunities from people who have those resources and who want to make a difference too. And that is why I chose to become a part of G4G. So initially, I joined G4G as a mentor, but due to circumstances, I became a mentee, which for me was a blessing in disguise, because through being a mentee, I learned practical and useful skills. I gained valuable knowledge. Being a mentee highlighted for me that in as much as you may have a vision, and in as much as you want to bring change, but there's nothing wrong with putting yourself in a position to learn from leaders who have walked the very same path that you want to walk. It highlighted to me that self-development as a leader is very important. You may be a leader, but no one is perfect, and there are things that we still need to learn, and it's always important to develop yourself in whatever capacity. And so after graduating as a mentee, when G4G announced that there would be the alumni group and they were looking for leaders, I took that opportunity and ran for the position, because again, I still wanted to be a part of something that makes a difference, which was the initial reason that brought me to even knowing about G4G in the first place. So that, ladies, is my story in a nutshell, my journey with leadership and public service. But what I'd like to leave with you today is that as long as there's a difference and there is a change you want to make, whatever field it may be, whether it is in your community, it is in your school, it is in church or your place of worship, you can, and that is grounds enough to make you a leader. You don't have to be someone who is an extrovert or out there or talkative, but your vision is what's important. Wanting to bring change is what's important. And another point is that, which is something that I stand strongly on, you become a leader and a better one at that through experiences, through putting yourself out there, through taking opportunities and allowing those opportunities to grow you and develop you. Yeah, so I think that's basically my story in a nutshell. Thank you. Over to you, Aka.
Wow, wow, wow. That was really, really awesome. Flowers to you, Alice. Drop some flowers in the chat box for Alice. And if you have any questions, please put your hand up, turn your video on, turn your mic on, and ask away. Because Alice, like many of us who were afraid of leadership, all she did was start. She saw something that she was passionate about and just decided to start. And now Alice's mentor, past mentor and probably still a mentor, Zainab, wants to say something. Zainab, go ahead.
Afternoon, everyone. While preparing, I went through my notebook. So I just wanted to point out to the mentees that notes are so important. And when I went through my notebook, I'm still in touch with Alice, and I just reflected on her journey. And I don't even think she realizes, some of the notes that I made, while we were in our sessions. And when I look back from session 1, Alice knew exactly what she wanted. And where she was heading to in terms of, what her expectations were from G4G. And some of the notes that I found that I've made was in session 1, Alice specifically said she's here for leadership and growth, and she wants to transform education in South Africa. So, seeing her grow and seeing where she started with us at G4G last year to where she is now, I just wanted to say hats off to you. You knew exactly what you wanted to do from day one, and I can see it so clearly in your vision and in the change that you wanted to make. I recall specifically, the various roles that you played over, your grade 11, grade 12, and then also at your first year at university. But something that you highlighted during your art of communication session was that you still experience panic attacks, and that you still, have anxiety before you have to speak publicly. And I just wanted our mentees for Athlone to reflect on that. It doesn't matter how many times you would speak in front of people, you'll still have and you'll still experience those challenges. It's not going to go away, but I can see from where it was to what it is now, the confidence, I can see the growth in terms of preparing before you come to the session, and all of the principles that G4G has instilled or tried to, instill in the mentees. I can definitely see that coming through as Alex addresses us here this afternoon. Alex was the kind of mentee that always, put her hand up. She stepped up when I would ask, or when we would ask, we need a volunteer to do interviews. In one of the sessions, Alex was that person, that would put her hand up. She wasn't afraid to give feedback in the sessions or ask questions. And I just wanted us to use that as an example for us going forward. ask those questions. This is your space. This is your safe space. It's your space to reflect on what you learn, and the skills that we're trying to impart, and we're trying to gain with you together. So ask those questions, because you'd rather ask those questions in this safe space, and know that, no one's going to judge you, no one's going to question why you're asking it, and you will get the guidance, because you have so many amazing mentors, that you're surrounded by, that have years of experience in different fields. We're so fortunate to have Mom Elaine, Mom Rita, Sheila, and all the other ladies, that come with years of experience in terms of mentoring young ladies. So I just wanted us to take that moment to reflect in terms of Alice's journey with G4G. I'm very proud of her achievements. I know when we did public service, she specifically mentioned, wanting to address a certain issue in Yeoville, in a community, and taking, going back to a community center. I think it was, with the gym and related to the karate and stuff that she's involved in. So she thought of that in her public service session. That is the next step for her, or that's where she wants to go to. But look what she's achieved. She's gone beyond that, by becoming the team leader for the first South African alumni group. So, your dreams and your goals are set in spaces like this. And like she says, if you want to make that change, it's just about having that belief that you want to make the change, and you'll achieve it. So well done. I'm super proud of you. And I hope that, we can always support and cheer you on. But I just thought that it's very important for me to try and highlight, Alice's journey, from session 1 with G4G, and then also, her call to action in terms of what she wanted to do. But she's gone beyond that in so many ways, where she's achieved so much more in a shorter period of time. Well done.
Thank you, Zaina, for sharing. I hope that serves as an inspiration, and that you reflect on it, and that you see that because Alice is, so can you. Does anybody else have any questions for Alice? Any remarks for Alice? Mentors, feel free to chime in if you also want to share your encounters with Alice. And yeah, this is your space, like Zainab said.
Aka, I'm going to kindly ask that the mentees maximize this opportunity. We'll be sharing about how other mentees took advantage. But if you listened to Zainab just now, she talked about how, Alice started being a leader before she even graduated. Ladies, this is the opportunity for you. We brought Alice because she's very close to you. She comes from your community. This is the one chance. So ask all those questions. This is the safe space, right? Thank you so much, Alice, for sharing so beautifully and so powerfully. I'm hoping the young people are going to step up. Come, girls, let's step up. Let's step up. Thank you.
Yes, and when Alice said that self-development is key, I really felt that, because I think that a lot of people will say, oh, I'm one and done on this, and not take it further and not continuously improve themselves. But, anybody who's in the field of accounting or law will say that you have to continuously improve yourself in order to keep up with things, and to be aware of the new things that are happening around the world, and, keep those questions coming. But I just want you to remember that, self-development is key, and continuous improvement is key in leadership. It's not one and done. And that by putting yourself out there and taking those opportunities, like Alice said, I'm just echoing what she said, that you will make yourself a better leader through experience. This is your session, mentees. Feel free to ask any questions you may have for Alice. Sibonelo, go ahead.
Good afternoon to everyone. So my question to Miss Alice is, how did you overcome anxieties and shyness when you had to speak publicly?
Thanks for the question, Sibonelo. I think it's about just doing it despite the anxiety, despite the panic attacks. doing it over and over and over and over again, the feeling never really goes away. You will still feel nervous when you still have to speak in front of people. You will still feel the anxiety, but when you do it over and over again, over time, the fear somehow diminishes and is not as strong as it was in the beginning. You somehow get used to it. So if you're scared of speaking in front of people, just do it. And the more you do it, the more you become used to it and the more the fear diminishes. But it does not disappear. It just becomes better to do it. And you learn how to deal with it much better. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Shibonelo, for asking that question. Does anybody else have any more questions for Alice?
Somila has a question in the chat.
Thank you, Sheila, for pointing it out. Somila says that I would like to ask that we all know as leaders, we come across people who won't be in agreement with us. How did you overcome those people?
So I think this is where negotiation, that I think session 4, this is where negotiation comes in, and using those skills that you learn from negotiation, where you could sometimes you have to, if you're not in agreement, come to a compromise, then possibly have a win-win situation. But sometimes you won't always agree with everyone, and the negotiation won't always be a win-win situation, and that sometimes is okay. You may have a lose-lose situation where you're not in agreement with the person and they're not in agreement with you, and you just let things be in that way, and that's okay. Sometimes not every negotiation will yield the results that you want. So sometimes it's about convincing the person to see things in your view, or coming to a compromise, or just letting the situation be.
Thank you. We have 1 more minute left if you want to throw in your last question before we go into our body break. I would just like to thank you, Alice, so much for agreeing to come and speak here to not just the mentees, but us as well as mentors, and reminding us. And it's just so great to hear from Zainab how you've just grown into this awesome leader. And I can't wait to see how far you take your journey. I can't wait to see what you're going to do next. Thank you to Mam Sheila and Mam Rita for suggesting that Alice come and speak. And I think you're a very relevant speaker, especially to the mentees. And I hope that, you know, the mentees also see that because you are today standing where you are, that they can also just do amazing things like you have done. And just don't forget, guys, you know, Alice said self-development is key, that, you know, when you're passionate about something and you want to affect change, that those are the perfect grounds to become a leader. And I really hope that everybody remembers everything that you said today and never forgets it ever